Your neighbors could be more than they seem. Watch what happens when my wife's true identity is exposed. The Johnsons appeared to be the quintessential suburban family, living in a picture-perfect neighborhood where everything seemed to fall into place. Their home, nestled between neatly manicured lawns and homes with white picket fences, stood as a beacon of normalcy. Mrs. Johnson, a woman in her late 30s with an unassuming demeanor, could often be found tending to the garden or running errands, blending seamlessly with the other housewives in the neighborhood. To the outside world, she was just another stay-at-home mom, with a perfect husband, 2 children, and a life that many would envy. But beneath the surface, things weren't as they seemed. Her past was anything but ordinary. Before settling into the quiet life of suburbia, Mrs. Johnson had been one of the CIA's most skilled agents, working undercover in high-stakes operations around the world. Her cover had been carefully constructed, designed to fit the role of a regular woman, someone who could slip by unnoticed in the background. But living a double life wasn't easy. Every day was a delicate balance between maintaining her family's perfect image and guarding the secrets that could tear everything apart. She had sworn never to let anyone, especially her husband, know the truth. But as the days passed, the pressure to keep her true identity hidden was beginning to wear thin. She had managed to escape the dangers of her past. Until now, the HOA's attention to detail began innocently enough, with minor complaints about the Johnsons' home. At first, it was just a small reminder about the lawn's edge needing to be trimmed or the hedges requiring a little more shaping. Mrs. Johnson dismissed it as typical neighborhood bureaucracy, something all homeowners had to deal with. But soon, the warnings escalated. Letters began piling up in their mailbox, each one pointing out small infractions that most neighbors wouldn't even notice. One letter claimed the driveway was improperly lined. Another suggested a color change for their front door. And yet another criticized the mailbox for being slightly out of alignment. What began as harmless feedback started to feel personal. Mrs. Johnson was perplexed. There was nothing unusual about their home. As a former strategist, she knew that no one could be this observant unless they were watching closely. Her suspicions grew when she noticed a few new faces at neighborhood meetings. Individuals who seemed oddly inquisitive about her and her family. They were always asking too many questions, never satisfied with generic answers. It wasn't long before she realized the HOA wasn't just a group of people trying to enforce neighborhood rules. They were digging into her life. Her every move was being scrutinized, and the questions had begun to feel more like an investigation than a simple set of complaints. It was clear that someone was looking for something more, and the calm suburban life she had carefully built was starting to unravel. One evening, as the Johnsons were winding down after a quiet dinner, there was an unexpected knock on the door. Mrs. Johnson opened it to find 2 men standing in front of her, dressed in what appeared to be local police uniforms. They introduced themselves as officers, claiming they were conducting a routine investigation for neighborhood safety. At first, the visit seemed harmless, just another check, she thought. But as the conversation unfolded, something didn't feel right. The officers asked detailed questions about her family's background, her husband's job, and even her late-night work meetings. They were overly interested in the specifics of her daily schedule, asking where she went, who she met, and why she had recently been out of town. The questions, though polite, were too probing, too personal. Mrs. Johnson felt a growing sense of unease, but she kept her composure, giving vague, rehearsed responses. The officers, however, weren't easily satisfied. They kept pressing, mentioning things about her past that she hadn't shared with anyone. When they asked about her business trips, she felt her heart race. How could they know about that? Her mind started to race. These weren't ordinary officers, not by a long shot. They were either incredibly thorough, or they were looking for something specific. The visit, which should have been routine, had turned into something far more unsettling. Mrs. Johnson realized that the cracks in her perfect life were starting to show, and someone was close to uncovering the truth. The tension reached its breaking point when Mrs. Johnson's worst fears were realized. The officers who had shown up at her door weren't police at all. They were agents of a covert agency, one that had been tracking her every move for years. As their questions grew more direct, she knew she had no choice but to confront the truth. She couldn't hide behind her suburban facade any longer. With a deep breath, she revealed her true identity, not the perfect wife, not the stay-at-home mom, but a CIA agent, embedded deep undercover. It felt surreal, admitting it aloud, even though she had always known the day might come when her carefully constructed life would fall apart. The agents, showing no surprise, confirmed that they had been following her for some time. Mrs. Johnson wasn't just any housewife. She had been part of highly classified operations, gathering intelligence on global threats for years. The seemingly normal neighborhood, with its quiet streets and friendly faces, had been a cover, a safe place to live under the radar. But how had they found her? The answer was chilling. It turned out that the HOA members were not just concerned neighbors, they were part of a much larger conspiracy, tied to an international espionage network. The very people she had lived alongside for years were watching her every move. The reality of her situation hit hard. The life she thought she had built, the safety of her family, it was all compromised. Now, she had to fight not only to protect her family, but to stop the looming threat that had been hiding in plain sight. As the truth of Mrs. Johnson's double life came to light, the stakes escalated to a terrifying new level. What she had thought was a relatively simple neighborhood invasion was now a full-fledged global conspiracy. And she was at the heart of it. The HOA, far from being just an overbearing homeowners association, was actually a front for a network of highly skilled operatives embedded within the community. These seemingly innocuous neighbors were part of an underground organization with ties to international espionage. They had been keeping tabs on Mrs. Johnson ever since she moved into the neighborhood, their eyes always on her, watching every move she made. The depth of the conspiracy was beyond anything she could have imagined. The agents who had confronted her weren't merely interested in exposing her identity. They had an agenda, one that involved manipulating the intelligence she had been gathering for years. The real shock, however, came when Mrs. Johnson realized the true enemy wasn't just these covert operatives, it was someone much closer. A trusted ally within the CIA, someone she had worked alongside for years, had been feeding her false information, ensuring that her cover was always at risk. This betrayal cut deeper than anything she had encountered in her career. Now, with her family's safety on the line and the walls closing in, Mrs. Johnson was forced to make a choice: fight to protect her loved ones and stop the threat, or let the shadowy forces that had been manipulating her life win. The clock was ticking, and every decision she made could be her last. Don't forget to subscribe for more shocking stories and hidden secrets revealed.